Okay, so get this, right? There's this high-stakes tug-of-war, and it's happening right now
Oh, wow.
in the Himalayas, of all places.
Seriously.
Yeah, and we are diving deep into Nepal today to try to figure this out. So Nepal's facing some really, really tough decisions,
Right.
and we're going to look at why this $500 million infrastructure project, which was supposed to help them out, is suddenly a total mess. And what's crazy is this whole thing shows how the U.S. and China, like, they're really going at it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Trying to gain influence all over the world.
Yeah, it's a super fascinating case study. You could really see, like, how a country like Nepal, with all of its unique challenges,
Right.
becomes this, like, focal point for all these big global power dynamics.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so to start, let's just get a sense of the playing field here. So Nepal, it's landlocked right in the middle of those massive mountains.
Huge mountains.
Yeah, not exactly the easiest place to get goods or people in and out. Let's just say that.
Right, precisely. And that geography plays a huge role. I mean, it impacts their economic situation, too.
Yeah,
They have a really low average income,
I can imagine.
and their infrastructure needs work, right? Like reliable electricity,
Yeah,
decent roads, all that stuff that's crucial. Like if they want to develop, that's got to be there.
totally. So then the United States shows up with this, what seems like an amazing offer, right?
Yeah.
$500 million. It's a grant.
It's a lot of money, especially for a country like Nepal.
Huge. So what were they going to do with all that money?
Well, the goal was it had two parts. First, help Nepal build this transmission line
Okay.
so they could sell extra electricity that they're generating, right, to India.
Makes sense.
So that's like a potential revenue stream right there,
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And second, the U.S. wanted to improve Nepal's road network, which has been, honestly, it's been a problem for decades.
Yeah,
Makes sense, right? You need to be able to move stuff around if you want a growing economy.
of course, of course. So this grant, though, this $500 million was coming from the Millennium Challenge Corporation.
The MCC.
The MCC, yeah. For those of us who don't know all about that, what's the deal with them?
Okay, so the MCC, it's a U.S. government agency,
Okay,
but they have a very, very specific mission. So they're focused on reducing poverty,
right.
but through economic growth. And here's an interesting thing. Their whole yearly budget is only about $1 billion.
Really?
So this $500 million for Nepal,
Yeah.
that's half their yearly spending, which shows you, I mean, they were serious about this.
Wow. But wouldn't this make China a little nervous?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've been investing a ton in Nepal already.
Oh, absolutely. They saw this as a challenge, like a direct challenge
Yeah.
to their influence, which is growing all the time. And, a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson even came out and said this publicly,
Really?
questioning the grant, saying that it would be difficult to chew.
Difficult to shoot.
Yeah, so they're trying to stir up doubt.
Wow. But wait, wasn't this money from the U.S.? This wasn't a loan. It was a
Right.
grant, right?
Exactly. That's a very important distinction here.
Huge difference. So, I mean, regardless of anything else, that makes it a way better deal than what China's offering.
Yes, because unlike some of those Chinese loans, which often come with, let's say, conditions, this U.S. grant, it was presented with no strings attached.
Wow. Okay, so what was the reaction like inside Nepal? I mean, surely $500 million, no strings attached, that's got to be appealing to some people.
Oh, yeah, it sparked a huge debate, like a massive internal debate.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You had some Nepali lawmakers who were ecstatic, right? They
Nice.
saw it as like a much-needed chance to help their economy, right, get things moving without, ending up in a ton of debt.
Makes
But,
sense.
of course, it's never that simple, is it?
Right, right. There was opposition too, wasn't there? I mean, what were they worried about? Was this all just fear-mongering, or was there a legitimate reason to be wary of this whole deal?
It was a mix, honestly. There were people who were genuinely worried about Nepal's sovereignty.
Okay.
Like, they were afraid that if they took all this money from the U.S., it would somehow, like, pave the way for, get this, American troops on Nepali soil.
Wow. Troops, seriously, troops. I mean, that seems like a huge jump to make.
It's hard to know for sure, but it definitely played on, those anxieties about foreign influence, which makes sense, I mean, given Nepal's history.
Right, yeah,
But on the other hand, the people who supported the U.S. deal,
right.
they argued. They said, look, this is a grant. This isn't a loan, right? We need this infrastructure. I mean, why are we turning away free money?
Yeah, it's a tough spot. You're trying to, develop, grow your country,
Right.
but it seems like every option has some strings attached, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, this wasn't just some abstract, geopolitical maneuvering or whatever.
Right,
There were real people there, like passionate about their country.
of course.
And they were debating this, like what's best for Nepal. I mean, lawmakers were accused of being like U.S. puppets, traitors. Like, it
Wow.
was serious stuff,
Intense. So, I mean, ultimately, Nepal decided to take the money,
Okay.
accept the U.S. offer.
Mm.
But then that's when things got really
Yeah,
messy, right?
that's when it gets interesting.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So just as, Nepal's getting ready,
Uh-huh.
right, for this big project, the Trump
Right.
administration comes in and
Uh-huh.
puts a freeze on all foreign aid.
Whoa.
So the Nepal project,
Yeah.
it's on hold.
Talk about a rug pull. I mean, imagine you're one of those, lawmakers in Nepal who really championed this.
Oh, yeah.
They were convinced this was the right move.
Right.
Now you're kind of left holding the bag.
It was a huge blow. And one Nepali lawmaker, I mean, he actually called it shocking. He said it made the U.S. look really unreliable.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Not at all. And think about it. The ripple effects, right, of that perceived unreliability,
Yeah,
contacts, are now just in limbo.
right.
Nepal risks falling further into debt.
Oh, man.
Their relationship with India could be messed up, too. I mean, India was kind of banking on that surplus electricity, right?
Makes sense.
Yet all of this happened because of some policy shift thousands of miles away.
Wild. So, I mean, this isn't just about like Nepal's internal problems anymore, right? This
Right.
is like a major setback for the US on the world stage. I mean, they just handed China a victory, didn't they?
They did. They really did. And this whole situation, it fits into this larger trend we're seeing.
Yeah.
Their economic power in Nepal. It's growing.
For sure.
It's getting bigger. And it's not just about this one grant either.
Yeah.
Remember that airport loan?
Oh, yeah, with
The one where they're already struggling to
Yeah.
repay, right, because of the crazy costs.
Yeah, yeah.
So now with this, U.S. grant on hold,
Right.
Nepal's even more reliant on China.
Oh, for sure.
And that, means potentially more debt,
Right.
more leverage for China later on when they're, making deals, negotiating things,
Yeah.
and just more influence overall.
It's like they're gaining a foothold. Yeah.
They are. This was a huge chance for the U.S. to, like, push back.
Yeah.
But they didn't take it.
It's a mess. Okay, but is it totally over? I mean, is this project just dead?
Not necessarily. So the Millennium Challenge Corporation, they're trying to keep this alive.
Right.
They're looking for waivers from the State Department
Oh,
to try to
yeah.
keep things going, even with, the aid freeze.
So there's a chance, but
There's a chance, but even
even if they get it done, isn't the damage already done? Like, how can Nepal or any country really, how can they trust the US after this whole thing?
that's a really good question. I mean, the delay itself has created doubt,
Yeah,
frustration,
totally.
and it's really hard to say how this is going to affect, how willing they are to work with the U.S. in the future.
Yeah, who knows?
And all the while, China's watching this whole thing
Right.
very, very closely, just, waiting to jump in if the U.S. makes another mistake.
Wow. Okay, so what started as like this simple development project,
Right.
it's turned into this like crazy geopolitical chess match.
It has.
And Nepal's like caught in the middle.
Stuck in the middle. And it raises a really important question.
Yeah, what's that?
What does this mean for the U.S.? Like, are they serious about their foreign policy goals?
Right.
I mean, if they're willing to just, like, drop a project like this,
Yeah.
what does that tell other countries who might want to, work with them?
Yeah, it makes them seem unreliable.
Exactly.
Like, who would trust them?
It's a warning sign.
Right.
It shows how, like, interconvenient the world is. Decisions, like, somewhere else
Yeah.
can have big consequences.
Huge consequences.
Somewhere totally different.
Yeah. But we can't forget, like, this isn't just about the big picture stuff. This is about people, like real people in Nepal.
Absolutely. We got to remember this is about the people of Nepal and their hopes for the future. And those hopes are stuck in this fight between
Yeah.
these global powers, right?
Totally.
What happens next? It's going to affect their lives,
It's going to be huge for them.
It is.
Yeah, it is easy to get lost in all, like, the big picture stuff.
Right.
But, we can't forget that this is about people's lives in Nepal.
Of course.
We read some really powerful quotes from Nepali lawmakers.
Yeah.
They're caught in the middle of this whole thing. What struck you about their perspective on it all?
Well, one thing that I thought was interesting, it was the sense of betrayal
Oh, wow.
that kind of came through. It wasn't just like dry policy talk. You
Yeah.
could feel like the passion, the frustration.
Right.
The feeling that they'd been let down by the U.S. There's this one lawmaker, he was a supporter of the deal, and he said something like, they're making it easier for our neighbors, especially the Chinese, who are just loving this.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It shows how, like, this whole thing is a win for China.
Totally.
It makes the U.S. look bad, not just strategically, but, like, they can't be trusted.
Yeah. And don't forget that quote from the Chinese spokesperson too, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
When they said that the U.S. grant would be difficult to chew,
Yeah, yeah.
that wasn't just a random comment,
Oh,
right?
no, no, it was totally deliberate. It shows how China sees the U.S. getting involved over there.
Right.
They see it as a challenge
Yeah.
to what they want to do.
And their own ambitions, for sure.
Exactly. And they aren't afraid to, say that out loud.
Wow. So Nepal's stuck between these two superpowers.
It's a tough place to be.
It's got to be tough, right? You're trying to build your country up,
Right.
but every
It
option
seems like
has some like catch, right? You don't know who to trust.
exactly. And that's what's so interesting about this whole case study.
Yeah.
It shows how decisions made in Washington and Beijing
Right. Yeah.
have a real impact on people's lives in Nepal.
Absolutely. It's not just like a theoretical thing.
No, no, it's about real consequences for people.
Yeah, we can't forget that. And also, we can't forget that people in Nepal,
Right.
they weren't just sitting back and watching all this happen.
Oh, no, not at all. They were really involved. They
Yeah.
shared their opinions,
Yeah,
protested, made their voices heard.
for sure, for sure. Okay, so where do we go from here? Like, what are the big questions we should be asking?
I mean, for one, can the U.S. fix this, right?
Right.
Repair the damage that's been done.
Yeah.
Will they actually learn from this and change how they do foreign aid?
Right.
And what about Nepal? Will they end up even more reliant on China?
Yeah.
And maybe lose some of their independence?
No. It's scary to think about.
It is. It is. But, this whole situation,
Mm.
it's not just about Nepal.
Right.
It's about how development aid
Right.
and geopolitics, they're all mixed up together.
Yeah.
It's about what it means for other countries in the world
Totally.
who are trying to figure out, where they fit in.
Yeah. It's messy.
Yeah, and, this deep dive has shown us just how messy it can be.
Absolutely.
This isn't over, though. I mean, the decisions made today by Nepal
Yeah.
and these big, powerful countries
Uh-huh.
are going to have a big impact for a long time.
They really will. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. But for you, our listener, the takeaway here is this. Keep paying attention to these kinds of stories.
They're important.
They are. They show us what's really happening in the world.
Yeah, the forces that are shaping things.
And we need to understand those forces.
Now more than ever.
Exactly. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.